later, it was the two of them talking. So it was really powerful. It was beautiful, actually.
And Dara, Caitlin has just joined us.
Hi guys.
Hi, Caitlin. I was just talking about you.
I was like, I think Dara's talking about my mom.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Talking about you, Caitlin.
Yeah, it was really special. She should be jumping on here really soon too. But yeah. Hi everybody.
Well, it's 6:30, so I think it's probably a good time to start with some introductory information. And as people join us, they can we'll maybe not get to our main speakers for a couple minutes. So if people join us a little bit late, that'll be okay. I am going to share my screen. I've taken to creating a very brief sort of PowerPoint for these Zoom meetings, mainly because I want to provide you with some access to information that you can write down, some things you might want to jot down. So that's why I've taken to do that. So before I get started, let me just ask everybody to mute your microphone so that there's no feedback and everybody can hear. And let me introduce myself. My name is Lauren Rousseau. I'm the president of the Northwest Wayne chapter of Families Against Narcotics. This is, as you know, our December meeting. So let me just share my screen here. Hold on. I think everybody should be able to see it now, right? And let me go from here. All right. So again, as I said, this is our December public forum. And I think probably most of the people who are with us today are familiar with Families Against Narcotics, but in case there is one or two people who've joined us who's not that familiar, I want to share with you just a little bit of information about FAN. So I'll start with this. So there's about 20 chapters of Families Against Narcotics in Michigan. The mission of the chapters are, as you see on the PowerPoint slide, to provide education, resources, and support to families and individuals who've been impacted by addiction. There are certain things that all of our FAN chapters do to serve that mission. And then there are also some things that we all do differently to make sure that we're serving the needs of our community. One thing that we all do is our monthly public forums. So these monthly public forums are, at different days of the week and the month, depending on which chapter you're dealing with. And ours is the first Monday of every month. We have been for some time now, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, doing all of our meetings virtually. Normally our meetings are in Canton at Summit on the Park live, but again, we're currently doing them on Zoom. We're very grateful to have this forum, and we're very grateful that we have speakers who are willing to speak through Zoom, and that all of you are joining us for these public forums. But I'll tell you, we were just talking a little earlier at the beginning of the meeting, how much we all can't wait to get back to our live meetings. I will tell you that I just heard from FAN's executive director this afternoon that our virtual meetings for all of the FAN chapters are going to be continuing at least through the end of the year. So we are going to continue to be virtual, both with respect to our monthly public forums and with respect to our support groups, which brings up the next point there that I have marked on the PowerPoint slide. We have two support groups. One is the Stronger Together Family and Friends support group that has been meeting virtually for a while now, just as we've had our public forums virtually. You can see the information on this PowerPoint slide regarding that meeting. And again, that's a meeting for individuals, families, or friends of addicted loved ones who are looking for support. It's a smaller group, and they kind of maybe, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 15 people attend these meetings. They're twice a month, the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. And again, it's just a smaller environment where you can share, what you're experiencing, and people can share with you what they've experienced, and you can gather, gain support from people in that way. We also have a grief support group that meets on the same days, twice a month, the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. This is a group to provide support for individuals who've lost a loved one as a result of addiction. That group met virtually for a little while and then has been meeting live again at the PC Elano Club. But as of the past couple of weeks, FAN went completely virtual again, and we decided, at least for the time, the moment we're suspending the grief support group meetings. Our experience has been with the grief support group meetings is that they're not, people seem disinclined to want to attend those meetings in a virtual format, unlike the family and friends support group meeting. So we're going to continue to sort of revisit that and decide whether or not we want to try to do something online. But at the moment, the grief support group meetings are suspended. Also on this PowerPoint slide, you see reference to our YouTube channel. So all of our public forums, the speaker portions in particular, are recorded. And then we post them on that YouTube channel. So if you were to go to YouTube and look up NW Wayne Fan, you would see a whole laundry list of different speakers and different meetings that are there. This meeting will ultimately be posted on our YouTube channel as well. So if there's ever a point where you are wanting to explore other topics that we've had speakers on, or you're wanting to get some education relating to addiction, and are looking for the kind of support that we provide at these public forums, you can go to the Northwest Wayne Fan YouTube channel and you can check out the different meetings that we've had and the different speakers that we've had. All right, a couple more introductory things before we introduce our speakers today. I think probably most people here know that FAN has an initiative called Hope Not Handcuffs. This is a program whereby FAN partners with participating police stations in order to provide help to people struggling with addiction who are wanting to get into some type of treatment. The way the program works is that somebody who's wants treatment can go to a participating police station, say that they want to connect with someone through the Hope Not Handcuffs program, and then we have a volunteer coordinator who will contact one of our local volunteers who will go to that police station within 20 minutes to meet with that person and work with that person to get them into treatment. We are working to launch 2 police stations in our area, Northwest Wayne, the police station in the city of Wayne and the police station in Garden City. We were hoping to launch it in November. However, we are struggling to get enough angels to be able to launch the program. So an angel, we call them angels, is someone who is trained to help these individuals get into treatment. So there's a training program that basically teaches you how to work with somebody, what phone numbers to call in order to get the person into treatment. So if anybody of you are interested, or if you know someone who's interested in the Northwest Wayne area, who would like to be an angel or even just explore what this is all about, I'd like to encourage you to sign up for a training. So we have 2 trainings coming up. One is on December 9th, the other is on December 17th. These are virtual, so you're basically able to engage in this training online, just as we're doing here with this public forum. The training is at 6:30. If this sounds like something that is interesting to you, I'd invite you to go to the link that you see on this PowerPoint slide, familiesagainstnarcotics.org/hope-not-handcuffs. When you go to that page, you'll see a spot on the page that asks, do you want to be an angel? You can click on that and it'll take you to the list of trainings and you could sign up for one of those trainings. So we would love to have some more people get involved with this so that we can launch these 2 programs. So again, if you're even thinking about it, I'd like to invite you to, again, sort of explore that, maybe sign up for a training and see what it's all about. With respect to other events, and by the way, this is my cat. This is Athena. She's decided she needs to make an appearance today. I've also put on this PowerPoint slide reference to our Facebook page. So we have a pretty active Facebook page. We post information, articles, etc. And one of the things we post as well are events. So, we'll have a public forum coming up in January. We have them every month. Information regarding our support groups is posted there. So if you're interested in, keeping up to speed on what we're doing, one way to do it is through our Facebook page. So you can, our address right there for our Facebook page, you can see on the PowerPoint slide. You can find it on Facebook, like the page, and then you'll have access to all the information that we post. All right, I think that's all of the introductory information that I have. Dara, our Vice President, am I forgetting anything?
I think you got it covered.
All right, then I'm going to ask Dara. I'm going to turn this over to Dara now, and Dara is going to introduce our speakers. Let me stop sharing. You can actually see everybody's faces here. Go ahead, Dara. It's all yours.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that. And thank you again to just echo the thoughts that Lauren said. Thank you all for joining in this evening. We have a wonderful program planned for you. And it is my pleasure to be able to announce our speakers this evening. I'm super excited to announce this wonderful young lady, Frankie Walker, who is near and dear to fans' hearts because she's actually works for Families Against Narcotics. So we're super excited to have her and her daughter join us this evening. Frankie is a woman in long-term recovery. She's a mother, a business owner, and a peer recovery coach. She's been in recovery since December 29th of 2014. So congratulations, Frankie. She started managing United House for Women in March of 2017 and purchased that business in January of 2019, another fabulous feat. She became a MDHHS state certified peer recovery coach in September of 2018 and has been working as a peer recovery coach with FAN since March of 2019. She is also part of our, runs part of our comeback program, which I'm sure she'll share a little bit more about that. It would be wonderful if we could bring that program here to Northwest Wayne, FAN as well. But her passion is working with other women who are struggling to find a better way of life. And she does this through 12-step programs, her recovery house and Families Against Narcotics. She's a strong believer in community involvement and does her best to pass this on to others. So I'm also, I think I'll stop there, and then when Frankie's done, then I'll introduce Brittany. How's that? So take it away, Frankie.
Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, okay, good. Hi.
I hear you.
I am, my name is Frankie, and I'm a woman in long-term recovery. I'm coming up on 6 years of continuous recovery from all mood and mind altering chemicals, and my path of recovery is complete abstinence. I don't, you know, I've been asked to share my story, and I really want to touch on the disease of addiction, not really war stories or the things that I participated in as a person with substance use disorder, but the disease itself, because I don't think that a lot of people, when they think of addiction or substance use disorder, I feel like it's more about drugs. And I think it's very important that people understand that drugs have nothing to do with our disease. This disease is a mental disease, and drugs are a symptom of that disease, but they are not the disease itself. So, you know, I felt the effects of this disease long before I ever found drugs. For me and for most people that I know or have had the pleasure of working with or have come in contact with, or people that I am recovering with, this disease is about self-worth, and a lot of it has to do with trauma. So for me, I have the things that led me to want to do drugs have been present my entire life. They have always been in the back of my mind, and a lot of it stemmed from never really feeling a part of anything or feeling like I fit in anywhere. And that doesn't really have anything to do with popularity or how many people someone knows. I came from a very small town in Florida, but in that town, so there was about 300 square miles, right? It was about 30 miles wide and 10 miles long. And out of that 300 square miles, there were only 3 high schools. But everybody from those 3 high schools knew each other. So I grew up in Florida, as I said, and at one side of this county, there was a very small island. So you had like your islanders and your surfers, and then you had what we referred to as towners, which were people that lived not on the island. And then way out east, you had a very, I want to say redneck community. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, because I consider myself one of those. But a very country environment, right? But everybody in each of those communities kind of knew each other. So I had a group of friends growing up that stemmed from surfers and what people called islanders to a very country community, farmers and cattle farms and dairy farms, and I knew everybody and everybody knew me. So it really didn't have anything to do with popularity. It had a lot to do with not really wanting anyone to see who I was on the inside, because I didn't like who I was. And I felt like if anybody knew who I really was, or I showed them the deeper parts of me, they wouldn't like me either. So that's kind of where it started for me. And for most people that I know who suffer from this disease, it's not about drugs, it's about escaping. We become addicted to escaping our own reality. So what that meant for me was, growing up, I lived in a very, a world where I created a lot of fantasy about who I wanted to be, and wasn't really in reality of what my life actually was. So I learned very early that alcohol could take me there. I learned very young that being attractive, especially in a Southern community, was what was most important. My brains didn't have anything to do with it. It was really about how people saw me. And, I feel like that contributed a lot to it. I grew up in a household where there was a lot of abuse, a lot of physical abuse. To give you a little bit of background on that, my mother was the second youngest of 10 children. My grandfather was a coal miner, and they were very poor growing up. My mother got married at 14, had me at 15, was a widow at 16. Was remarried by the time she was 19, had my sister, divorced that man, and married a man who literally beat her so bad that he put her in the hospital on a regular basis for weeks. I mean, she would be in the hospital for weeks. And, I was witness to all this, as was my younger sister, who also suffers from this disease. My mother suffers from this disease. My paternal grandmother suffers from this disease. So I definitely am a firm believer that it's hereditary. And so I feel like what happens with us is that, so I always had friends growing up who would go out with us on the weekends and could have a couple drinks, get a little glow, as they say, and be good. They wouldn't need to drink all night, but that wasn't the case for me. It's like we don't have an off switch that most people have. If one makes me feel like this, then 10 is going to make me feel like this. And so everything we do to the extreme, and we become very kind of OCD about things. And I noticed that in other areas of my life, even still today, like, and my daughter's probably going to laugh, but I'm anal about the way my dishwasher is loaded. Like I'm not OCD about being clean, but everything kind of has an order and a way that it's supposed to be done. And I believe that's a direct reflection of my disease. But so as I was saying, I found out at a very young age that, drugs and alcohol could make me feel invincible and take me out of the reality that I wasn't good enough, or that I didn't fit in, or that if I let anybody in, that they would see this ugly side of me that I, for myself, did not like. I was the kid that because my mother was in a very abusive relationship, was not allowed. A lot of kids in my neighborhood were not, hi Aaron, a lot of kids in my neighborhood were not allowed to hang around me or come into our household because of the fear of what they would see. And as an adult, I repeated that. I got into a relationship that was like that. So addiction definitely had an impact on my life, even when I wasn't using drugs. You know, it had an impact on my children's lives, right? Because I never felt good enough. So even, you know, when I wasn't using drugs and I had years of abstinence, and I want to say abstinence because I had no recovery, because I was married to a very controlling, abusive person who did not let me practice recovery, because recovery is a social, you know, there's other people involved in it. And it was very hard for me to have friends outside of the household. My role was strictly to take care of our children, I was the breadwinner in the family. So it definitely affected my kids in the sense that because I didn't feel good enough about myself, I allowed people to mistreat me and had a very distorted idea of what love looked like. I felt like if somebody wasn't jealous or questioning what I did, that they didn't love me. If they weren't trying to control me or didn't have a fear of losing me all the time, that they didn't love me. So these are all things that stemmed from my addiction, because it was that way my entire life, right? And then you put the trauma on top of that, and so I drank a lot as a teenager. Somehow I managed to graduate from high school. I'm not really sure how I did that, but I did it, and I did it with, you know, pretty good grades. I then my parents moved up here when I was a senior in high school. I ended up staying behind in Florida, and after I graduated, I did end up coming up here. I have a younger sister who was already up here with my parents, and very quickly, I was kind of introduced to the drug scene up here. I was introduced to crack in my early 20s. And, I don't know if my daughter knows this or not, but the day that I got arrested, the day that I got pregnant with her, and that was a godsend, I'll say, because had I not gotten arrested that day, I don't know that I would have stopped using drugs long enough to have a child, because I would have probably not found out until 6 weeks into my pregnancy, if that, because I didn't monitor the way my body worked when I was using. So I wouldn't, days run into weeks, run into months. So who knows if I would have even known that I was pregnant or missing a cycle, or to even know that I had a child growing inside me. But my pattern was always self-sabotaging as well, is a huge part of addiction for me and a lot of other people that I've come in contact with. We don't feel good enough, and so what we tend to do is we don't have follow through. So we'll start on these tasks, like I call them pipe dreams. Like we have these things that we want to accomplish, right? And we set them in motion. But for me, the fear of not feeling good enough, I never had a problem when things weren't good for me. The problem always came in when things were going good. Like when I was starting to get close to reaching a goal. And for some reason, I would sabotage that. I would stop on that path and either pick up drugs or just stop for the fear of actually, I'm hearing an echo, for the fear of actually succeeding, because success was very unfamiliar to me. So, so as I said, I was introduced to crack in my early to mid 20s, ended up getting arrested, getting pregnant, having my older daughter, Brittany. Ended up meeting another gentleman who was the gentleman that I ended up marrying. Gentleman, for a better word, I'll say that. But I was with him for probably close to 10 years. And, that had a huge effect on my daughter as well, because she also got a somewhat distorted view of what love looked like, because I was repeating the same patterns that my mother did. Ended up eventually leaving him. And when I did, I was introduced to a drug called oxycodone in Florida by a doctor. And I didn't really have a lot of experience with opiates. Growing up in Florida, cocaine was a very prevalent drug. In Florida, it was no big deal for any class of person to go out and drink and do a couple bumps or a couple lines of cocaine. It was almost like smoking pot down. As crazy as that sounds, cocaine was everywhere because it was Florida. But does everybody hear that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm just making sure it's not my computer. I'm sorry. But opiates was something totally different. We did not engage in that. I had never seen heroin. When we thought of heroin, we thought of the lowest of the lowest type of person, and the thought of anybody ever using a needle was unheard of. So, by the time I was introduced to oxycodone, it was rampant in Florida. I went to a doctor there for back pain, who ended up writing me a prescription for 180 oxycodone, the strongest prescription that you could get, 180 of them a month. And the crazy part was I was scared to death to take one of these pills because of the stigma that went along with opiates, right? People dying, needles, just what we were brought up on as the filth of it all, right? That was the worst. So I can remember the first time when I got this prescription, and I took one of these pills in my office at work, and I broke it into quarters because I was sure that if I took this whole pill, I was going to OD and die. That was like how afraid of opiates I was. And so I took a quarter of this pill, and that didn't happen. And it made me feel, it gave me all the energy that this other drug that I really loved, cocaine, gave me, without any of the paranoia or the craving. So I thought that I had and it made me feel like Superwoman, like I could do anything. So I took the other half, and by the end of the day, I had taken the whole pill, right? So I get up the next day, and then I find out that all these friends that I grew up with, because most of my friends or people that I knew, I don't even want to say friends because most of them didn't really know the real me. But all these people that I had grown up with in Florida were also doing this, right? They were taking these pills. And then I found out that some of my friends were shooting these pills. And it didn't take long for me to see the effects that this drug was having on people. But by this time, I didn't have the ability to do anything about it because, as most people who know anything about opiates, they know that this is it's a physical addiction. Like, you physically become addicted to opiates, and without them, you are extremely sick, and your body starts, I don't know even the word to use, but your body turns on itself pretty much. So my addiction to opiates grew rapidly. I was at that time the vice president of a very large staffing service. I was over Florida and Michigan. I traveled all over the country, managing our accounts with Walmart and Enterprise Rental Car. And probably within 5 months of getting addicted to oxycodone, I was taking temps from my job to these pain management clinics and paying them to go to these doctors, and I would give them money, and then I would take their prescription and sell it. And so this ended up costing me my job. I ended up pretty much losing everything that I had because of this, because my ex-husband, who at the time wanted to come back to Michigan, found out that I was making up fake MRIs and prescription histories and taking them to these multiple doctors so that I could support my habit and pay my bills. And when he found out about it, he used that to get me to come back to Michigan. In the state of Florida, the minimum mandatory for trafficking in oxycodone is 25 years. And if you're convicted, there is no leeway. The judge has no choice but to give you 25 years in prison. So I had that hanging over my head. I also had my daughter, Brittany, who was up here visiting her dad. I didn't have the means to bring her home. You know, and prior to this, as bad as things were, I feel like I was a pretty good mom most of the time. My kids were all involved in sports. I had a full-time job. My life revolved around their sports activity. So a day in our life might have looked like we would get up in the morning. And I don't know if I mentioned, but my ex-husband had 3 kids of his own that came to live with us immediately. I had my daughter Brittany, and then him and I had a child together. So there were 5 kids in our household. And when we did separate, all of the kids lived with me. His kids didn't live with him. So we would get up in the morning, everybody would get ready for school. I'd go to work. They'd come home, they'd do their chores, they'd do their homework, and then we'd be off to cheerleading and football or baseball. And my 2 daughters did, they showed horses. So we did have 4 horses. We had 2 horses and 2 horses that rented stalls from us. So, you know, they would go to practice or shows or, you know, whatever. It didn't entail a lot of partying or hanging out with people. It was really about being a mother and having a career. And within 5 months of being introduced to oxycodone, I was running scams on doctors, making up fake paperwork, putting myself in a position where I couldn't afford to bring my daughter home from up north and not having a choice. He came to me when he found out what was going on and had found some of the papers that I had been using to manipulate these doctors, and already had his trailer loaded and told me I had a half an hour to get whatever I could fit in the trailer. So I left behind our horses, I left behind our dog, I left behind everything of my daughter's minus her clothes. And I came up here without a job, without a vehicle, and pretty much anywhere to stay. And so I get here and I start working as a shop girl in a strip club at 40 years old. And I had been a bartender and I had been a waitress, but I had never worked in a strip club. So, you know, my life, and then of course, to be there and to be in that environment, I drank every single night while I was there. I could not get oxycodone here, so I started snorting heroin. And within a very short time, I was back to smoking crack, and the place that I had gotten for us, they ended up taking all of mine and my daughter's things and putting them on a curb. And so my daughter pretty much went to stay with, I want to say her dad, but it wasn't her dad. She ended up staying with one of her high school friends, pretty much most of her high school. So, you know, I was in and out of jail. I was in and out of treatment. I was in and out of recovery houses. But before that really started, from 2012 to 2013, I was homeless. I was living in a dope house at 7.5 Mile in John R. I had very little contact with my children. Most of the time, I think my kids didn't probably know whether I was dead or alive, because I could never maintain a phone long enough to have contact with them. And, you know, it got really, really ugly for me and for my children. And so in 2013, I ended up, you know, I lived in Oakland County prior to living at 7.5 in John R. But in 2013, I decided I was going to go to treatment because I would wake up, and I want to say wake up every day because I usually would smoke crack until I couldn't even stay awake. Like the crack wouldn't keep me awake any longer. And so, you know, I would go every day in the morning. I would go, and I mean, I would just cry, and I would be like, I don't even know how I got here. I don't know how I went from making $150,000 a year to literally being homeless, and how quickly it happened. And going from, you know, my world pretty much being my children to not having any contact with my kids. And I would always, you know, I have no family here. I have my kids, and I have my two daughters, and I have their fathers, and I have my stepdad, who at the time was a full-blown alcoholic. So I didn't really have anybody. And so somebody that I met down there, I used to cry and be like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of here. I don't know. I'm going to die down here. I don't know how I'm ever not going to live like this. And he told me that he would do whatever he needed to do to help me get into treatment and find a different way. And so he did. Ultimately, he took me to treatment in 2013. And this guy that I knew, we had a mutual friend, and he told me about these recovery houses over in Macomb County. And I'm like, I had no idea what a recovery house was. I had never heard of it. I had heard of like when you get sentenced to treatment, and then you know, like you go to Turning Point, and then you have to go to Turning Point's halfway house where you're kind of locked in. I had heard of that, but I had never heard of an environment where you could voluntarily live there in a drug-free environment and have some structure. So I called the mutual friend, and I said, hey, you know, ironically, it was a guy I used to get high with who was clean, who was clean. And I said, what is this place you're living in? And so he gave me this woman's number, and I called her when I was getting out of treatment, and came to Macomb County and went to a recovery house. And you know, I had done like 4 weeks in treatment, and I was there about 2 weeks. And this was the longest I had gone since 2010 or 2011 without using every single day. And after 2 weeks of being there, I had went out and used and came back to the house. And, you know, the other residents there called her, and they're like, she came there and she told me I had to leave. And I really couldn't, I had no idea why I was being asked to leave. I'm like, do you know I haven't used drugs in 6 weeks? Like, this is the first time I've used in 6 weeks. She goes, but you don't get it. You can't use it all. Live here. So I was asked to leave. I did go back out for about another year. Probably went to jail a couple more times. And then in 2014, I went back to treatment at the beginning of 2014, went back to that same recovery house. And, you know, I got a few 3 or 4 months clean. And then I tried to go out again, you know, and within a day or two, I would get arrested. So there was kind of this vicious cycle going on. And so the last time that I used was December 28th, because my clean date is the 29th of 2014. And, you know, the woman that owned this recovery house, I had this guy who probably felt like he was helping me or doing his part in my life. But the realization was that he was keeping me very sick, because if I wanted to use, he would pay for me to use. If I wanted to be clean, he would pay for me to be in a recovery house and buy my cigarettes, because I smoked at the time, and buy my clothes and give me money. And she kept telling me that as long as I was associating with him, that I was never going to be able to stay clean. And I just wasn't hearing it. You know, I was so adamant that I needed this person in my life, because I was so afraid, and to try to make it on my own. It was like my lifeline, right? And so she's sitting there taking an hour out of her day to have this conversation with me. And all I could think about was, I wish she'd shut up, because I really wanted to go get high, right? I wish she would just shut up so I could go get high. And that was December 28th. And so when she left, I got in his vehicle that I had at the recovery house, and I went down to Detroit, and I picked up this girl that I used to get high with down there. We went to this motel at 8 Mile and Woodward, and I bought a pack of heroin, and this guy asked me for a ride, said he would pay me for a ride, and all three got in this guy's vehicle, and I didn't even get out of the parking lot. We got pulled over by Ferndale police. And of course, this was a dope dealer. He threw all his stuff in the car. She threw all her stuff in the car. And, I've got my dope tucked tightly in my jaw, right? So I don't get caught with any of my drugs, but I get caught with all of their drugs in Oakland County. And this was my 5th drug felony in the state of Michigan. So I go to jail, and, I had this judge, his name was Judge Nichols, and everyone told me that he was the prison judge. And, he was about 80 years old. He was retiring the same year that I was getting sentenced. And, everyone told me, no chance in hell with this guy. And about this time, I get a letter from my daughter. I'm going to try to talk about this without crying. It was kind of the life-changing moment for me. I got this letter from her that said that she was really tired of all my broken promises, and me telling her that I was going to change and that I was going to make things better for our life, and me never doing that. And all I could think about while I was reading this letter was having this prison judge, and how I was never going to get an opportunity to make her life any better while she was still young enough for me to have that impact, because I was getting ready to go to prison, right? And so when I'm getting, I'm going back and forth to court while I'm in jail, and this judge tells me, so they have this thing called a cops agreement, which I really don't know what that is or understand it, but they sentence you under these guidelines that fall under points, right? So my guidelines under that were 0 months to 32 months, which means he could have given me anywhere from probation to 32 months in prison. But because I was a 5th time felon, which falls under the 2nd, 4th habitual category in the state of Michigan, he could actually sentence me 4 years to 40 years. And the judge told me that he was not going to give me any cops agreement, and that I was going to do my habitual sentence. And I thought, my worst nightmare just came true, that I was never going to get a chance to make it up to my kids. And he asked me if I had anything to say. And, I said a prayer, and I don't know what that prayer was, and I don't know what I said to this judge. But he looked at me and he said, Miss Brown, because that's my maiden name, and that's what my original charge was under in Oakland County years and years ago. So they call you by whatever, they have your original name as. He said, Miss Brown, I don't believe in rehabilitation of drug addicts, but for some reason, I still see something in you. So I'm going to give you 1 year suspended. You're going to do 6 months in Oakland County Jail, and then you're going to do 90 days in treatment, and then you're going to do 2 years probation. And if I ever see you in front of me again, you will serve every single day of that 4 years. So I, of course, called that woman at that recovery house. And she said, I will take you back, but I will only take you back if you're coming without him. And I thought, I keep trying to do this my way. I take this suggestion over here, but not this one. And I will do this, but I'm not willing to do this. And so, somebody told me it's time to dummy up, realize you don't know crap, and watch how other people do it, right? Find people who have what you want, not just like the material things that you want. Find a woman who walks with the dignity and grace that you want. Find a woman who has the confidence that you want. Find a woman who has the self-love that you want, right? So I started going to these Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and I started looking at these women, and I'm like, okay, that one has, I want this of what she has, and that one. So I started surrounding myself with women who made me very uncomfortable. And I did tell that guy that I wasn't going to take anything else from him, and he laughed at me. But I didn't. And I took a job making $10 an hour in a freaking pita bread factory, excuse my French, in August, and died because they have gas ovens as big as my house with pita bread flowing through them all day long. I literally would come home from work and feel like I had glue on my skin because there's flour all in the air and there's sweat all over me. But it gave me the ability to be self-sufficient again. And the recovery house gave me the structure that I needed. And I lived in that recovery house for about 8 months. I saved money. I didn't have a driver's license when I got there. I got a driver's license. I got a vehicle. I got actual insurance. I saved money, and my daughter and I moved into this little 2-bedroom apartment in April of 2016. And about, I think, now that I think about it, yeah, it was, I think March of 17, I started with the recovery house. So the house that I currently live in, this young woman that I knew from NA meetings, came to me and she said, listen, I don't want to be in recovery anymore. She had only been in a recovery about 3 months at this time. And she had this guy who is actually a very big part of my life now, but she was dating this guy who had a lot of money, who was my age. He was probably, I don't know, 15 years older than her, but he bought this house and said, well, I'll rent the house. I'll buy a house. I'll fix it up. I'll rent it to you, and you can run a recovery house out of it. Well, she didn't want a recovery house. She didn't want to be in recovery anymore. So she offered me 50% of the business in order to run it for her. So I did that. And I grew that business. And we opened a second house in the end of 17. And then we still needed something bigger. So then we got a really big 2-family flat with a finished basement and a living quarter in the basement in March of 18. And I bought the house that was the original recovery house. So that's where I live now. And, I used to go to fan meetings in the Fraser Forum. Got to know Erin, I think, the most in the beginning, because she was dealing with a lot of the scholarships and things like that women that were coming to my recovery house were getting. Kind of built a relationship with her and heard about this peer recovery coach program that they were going to be launching. And so I applied for it. So I was fortunate and blessed. I was with the startup. I was one of the first 4 peer recovery coaches hired for Families Against Narcotics. A lot has changed with that program since I started. It's grown tremendously, and they have a family coaching now. And then I don't know the exact month of last year. It was a few months before before COVID really started. But I was fortunate enough I've just been in the right place at the right time. So I'm at another fan meeting in Fraser, and the Washtenaw, I think was it the Washtenaw the Washtenaw? What is that gentleman's name?
Yes, Mario Nanos.
Mario, yeah. So I hear Mario spill the beans about this, quick response team thing that's going to be happening. And so I see Diane over, and I'm like looking at Diane, and I'm like, yeah, that's me. So I got to be a part of that pilot program, which is absolutely amazing. And, I tell people all the time, if you would have told me this is what I would be doing when I got clean, I would have never believed that. I had a 20-year career in staffing. I was very, very good at it. I loved it. I loved that industry. I would have never thought that this is what I would be doing. I thought for sure I would have gone back to staffing, been wearing my suits, and just been living my own life, but that's not how it happened for me. And, I'm fortunate that that's not how it happened for me, because doing what I get to do what I love. Like I have the best job in the world. I never ever feel like I'm working. Not when I'm in my recovery houses with my women, not when I'm working with the women that I coach, not when I'm going out to houses that have suffered from overdoses and talking to families and people who are looking for treatment. Not when, you know, Lisa calls and says, oh my God, I really need an angel. Are you available? You know, none of that ever feels like work to me. And people are like, you're on the go all the time. You're always working. But I'm like, but I'm really never working. You know, it just never feels like work. So I love Families Against Narcotics. I love Hope Not Handcuffs. I love the QRT program. I love the life that I've been able to build because of recovery. I love the relationship that I have with my daughter, both my daughters, actually. You know, one thing I'm going to say about Brittany is no matter how mad she got at me and all of the time that I was out there using for those 4 years, she never gave up on me. And no one could ever tell her that she couldn't see me. She was my biggest advocate. I can't imagine she ever said a bad word about me to other people. She might have said a few choice words to me. But you know, even when because as an addict, you know, coming up on 6 years clean, I still think about using sometimes. So don't ever let anybody tell you that they don't, because that would be a lie. It crosses my mind. It's a fleeting thought now. It's not an obsession. It's not a reality for me. But it still crosses my mind. But I'm going to tell you, even out of all the things I've learned in recovery, when I have that fleeting thought, the one thing that scares me worse than anything is because I don't have to use in dope houses now, right? So like if I was to use, I'd probably use in my house. Is my daughter finding me dead? That's the scariest thing to me in the world, is my children feeling like drugs meant more to me than they did. When I had a choice, right? Because when I don't have this physical addiction and I know that there's a better way of life, I now have a choice whether I pick up or I don't pick up. So when I had a choice, what did I choose? And so that is like the number one thing for me, because I have a clear mind and I'm actually able to think. I recover through a 12-step program and I recover through helping other people. But just helping other people isn't enough for me, because that's me helping other people on their journey. I have to continuously put things into my recovery. So I still sponsor people. I still work with a sponsor. I work in women's step groups. I go to meetings on a regular basis. And when we can't have meetings, I have bonfire meetings in my backyard. So, but that's a little bit of my story. Thank you.
Am I on here? Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Frankie. That was really incredible. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You know, your transparency and honesty and bravery to put your story out there is really incredible. And I really hope and pray that it touches somebody that needs to hear your story this evening. It was really beautiful.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. And we're so proud of you and so happy to have you on our fan team and all the wonderful things that you're doing to help others. It's really incredible. And there's nothing like having a job that doesn't feel like a job, that you're waking up every day and just feeling like you're just doing what your purpose is. You know, that's such a beautiful thing. So that's fantastic. So now I am so excited to introduce Frankie's daughter, Brittany, who she talked so passionately about. So Brittany Bolus, am I saying the last name correctly?
Yes, you
Brittany
are.
Bolus. She is in school part-time right now and studying early childhood development. And she's also in the middle of the CCAR training program. And she should be completing that next month, maybe February at the very latest. And she is potentially going to be a family recovery coach for young people that are in similar situations as herself, which will be fantastic. And let's see, what else can I say? Oh, she teaches at a Montessori school as well. So we're super excited to have Brittany on board and sharing her side of the story. So take it away, Brittany.
Hi guys.
I'm not used to doing stuff like this. So if I'm kind of pausing or weird, I'm sorry. I don't know. I kind of have to backtrack on what my mom said. I think my mom, has always been a good mother. I think even in her time of using while we were still down south, like none of us knew. We still got to do everything that we did on a regular basis. Nothing was different for us. So the whole move from one state to another was just so random for me. I left for the summer to visit my dad, and had contact with my mom for the first couple of weeks. And then after that is when, the communication started to fade. But I never knew why. I always had, ideas based off of things that I would hear from other people, but I never actually knew what was going on. And then I stayed in between a friend's house and my dad's house. My dad is Middle Eastern, so things for him are different. The life I lived at home with my mom was not the kind of life I could live with my dad. I could have friends over at my mom's. If I had a little boyfriend, I could have him over at my dad's. It was like, you come home from school and you do nothing. So for me, it was a big change. But yeah, like I said, I spent a lot of time going between a friend's house and his house because I had a lot more free time when I wasn't there. But for me, like I said, I didn't understand things. And then, my dad was never my dad never had me for more than a month at a time. My dad never had to care for me for longer than a month, and for the most part, I did everything by myself. And I think him having to randomly take over the responsibility of a 13-year-old girl was very overwhelming for him. I don't think that he handled it well at all. He's not good at communicating. So a lot of his worriness and sadness came off as anger. And a lot of the times that anger sprouted from my mom not being there. The anger sprouted from him just not knowing what to do with me, him not knowing how to care for me, and not having my mother to kind of guide him. So for the first couple of years, it was not easy. I didn't understand addiction. I didn't know anything about it. All I knew was what I was hearing from him. And I love my dad more than anything. I would never knock him down, but he definitely did not go about teaching me things about addiction the right way. It was constant negativity, constant, things are this way because of your mom this, your mom that. So it gave me a perspective on my mom that I didn't even know was there, because I didn't know that she was using or she was doing these things. So I kind of got hit with all of it out of nowhere. I kind of had to figure out how to cope with it, which I did not do well with. I actually started to self-harm back in 8th grade. I did it for a while. I didn't do it so bad to the point where it left marks on my body, because I was petrified of what people would think about me or what my family would think about me or whatever. I mainly hid what my mom was going through from everybody besides my dad, because the fear of judgment was so high, because they are so different. They don't understand those things. So it was hard for me. I pretty much went through high school by myself. I went to every cheer competition by myself. I went to football games by myself. I had literally nobody in the stands for me. My dad wasn't the kind of person to really go and sit at those kinds of things. And I think it was my junior year going into my senior year, I got a job that summer, and I worked every day, Sunday through Sunday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I busted my butt to make enough money to have for myself, but to also have just in case my mom ever asked. I actually got a job at a smoke shop when I was 17. I don't even think I was legally supposed to be working there. The owner actually paid me under the table. And I just remember, you know, there were times my mom would come in and she'd buy cigarettes and I would be like, oh, I got it. You know, I got it. I'll take care of you and stuff. But I think it was when she became clean that I actually started to understand what addiction was and how it affected people and how it affected the people that they loved. And I blamed myself for a really long time. I thought, you know, maybe if I didn't ask for this, you know, we would have more money and she wouldn't have wanted to use. Or if, you know, I didn't ask for a horse, you know, if I didn't ask for this, or I didn't ask to get my hair done. Like I always thought, you know, me asking or me nagging or me being a brat or being a spoiled little girl at the time, you know, caused my mom to use. So during the whole time of when we were in Michigan and I didn't hear from her, it was my fault. It was my fault. It was my fault. You know, I wasn't a good enough daughter. Why didn't she want to talk to me? Why won't she call me? You know, I used to just beat myself up about it. Like I did not know how to handle it. I didn't understand, and it was messing with my mind. And I kind of fell into a hole where, you know, I was depressed. I didn't know what to do. I was, you know, drinking at 13 all the time. I was living at my friend's house and we would literally, her mom was working at Steak and Shake and her mom would go out and buy us, you know, a fifth of Jaeger or a fifth of Tito's or whatever we asked for. And we would drink it, you know? And as I got older, you know, I kind of got out of that. That was never something that I stuck with. But as I got older, I saw how it affected other people. I saw how some of my friends started to get into addiction. I saw other family members get into addiction, their family members. And it just, I had to do something. I had to educate myself. I had to become, you know, knowledge on what was going on around me because it was happening to so many people. And I just didn't know why or how to stop it or how to prevent it. And I realized there really is no preventing it, that people are going to do what they want to do. And you can either be their support system or you can't. And I think that the relationship that I had with my mom before I found out everything was kind of like you can't let go. Like your mom is your best friend. You and your mom do everything together, you know? So for me, it was like, she's hurting me, she's hurting me, she's hurting me, but I love her. What if she gets clean? I love her. What if she gets clean? I wanted to be there for that. And I remember that night or that day that she went to court with that judge. And let me tell you, no offense, Mom. My mom always looks, you know, her best. My mom never, you know, walks out of the house looking like she got hit by a truck. And when I say my mom looked like she got hit by a truck, she looked like she got hit by a truck, and I didn't recognize her. I didn't recognize her at all. She was thinner than me. You know, she always had her hair done. Her hair was not done. And I remember, you know, she called me from jail and she's like, I need you, you know, can you write a letter? Just, you know, I need something. And I was like, of course, I'll do anything for you, you know? And I just remember sitting there and the judge was like, go ahead, sweetie. And I just was bawling. Like, I don't even think I got 4 words out of my mouth. I was bawling. I was like, here, you read it. Like, I can't do it, you know? And I just remember seeing her like that. And that's the only time I've ever seen her like that. And I think for me, it was like, I'm either going to luckily get my mom back or I'm going to lose my mom. And I didn't think that I was going to get my mom back at all. Like she said, I woke up every day and called her just to hear her voice and know that she was alive. And half of the time I never got a pickup from the call. So every day I would wonder like, oh my God, you know, I would panic and, you know, she didn't have family, so they didn't know who to call. I was 13 at the time. They weren't going to call me, you know what I mean? Who to tell them, sorry, your mother's deceased, you know? So I struggled for a really long time. And I still struggle now because I don't have any friends whose parents or family members or anybody is either currently using or is currently in active recovery. So I was going through all this stuff and, you know, I had one friend at the time, but nobody understood at all. so I struggled, and then she got clean. And I started to go to meetings with her. I started to hang out with her friends. I started to be around those kinds of people. And it made me feel so much better to know that I was not the only child suffering, or the only child going through something like that, the only child feeling the things that I was feeling. And even now, she said she's almost 6 years clean. She still thinks about, using it, passes her mind. And I wake up every day with the same thought. I wake up every day, I'm 22. My mom's a grown woman. I have her location because if she does not answer my call, I'm checking it. And I know it's, like crazy and kind of, but it's just, for me, I haven't been able to grasp how successful recovery is for some people. My mom's got a friend who's got almost 20 years clean, and I'm just like, wow. And then, there's people who can't make it past 6 months. And I think being around these kinds of people in that kind of environment opened my mind up to a lot more things. It made me a lot less judgmental for the people that were actively using. I thought it was all their fault. I did not think at all that addiction was, a disease. I thought these people decided to pick this up, regardless if it was one time or not. They decided to do this. They decided to put, everything that they had at risk for something that they know could possibly destroy their life. So it was really hard for me to sympathize. And then, my mom started to get more and more time clean. She started to get more friends. And then she had one friend who I still can't get over it to this day. He was the best guy I've ever met. He was so funny. He took care of me. He always made me feel safe. And he passed away. He OD'd and passed away, and it was hard. And after that, all I could think about was if he could do it, anybody could fall off the wagon. And then for me, that was just the trauma and the anxiety kind of all flushing back. And I've kind of learned that I'll never be able to get rid of the fear, but I can cope, and I can talk to her about these kinds of things now and, express how I'm feeling without being worried about her being mad at me or her doing this or her doing that. I feel like I can express how I feel to her in different ways now versus before. Anything I felt like I felt like anything that she said back, she was attacking me or I was attacking her. So I am eternally grateful for recovery. I'm eternally grateful for FAN and the recovery houses and everything else that you guys as a community have created, because I don't think I would be alive if my mom wasn't alive. Honestly, I don't think that I would have been able to do it. And I struggle. Even now, I have depression and anxiety, and there's been multiple times where, I've wanted to end it all, but I thought if my mom could get through the deepest and darkest times of her life for me, that I can do that for her. So I'm trying, and I just am trying to help other people my age, because at such a young age, your parents are supposed to be there for you. And when they're not, you question yourself rather themselves. And my little sister went through it too, man. And my little sister went through it rough. Her dad was a lot different than mine. He was very verbally, physically, and mentally abusive. So when I finally did get contact with her again, and she had all these things to say about our mom, I was just heartbroken. I couldn't believe that somebody had convinced someone so young that their mother was just this monster when she wasn't. And it affected my little sister a lot worse than it did me. My little sister didn't want anything to do with my mom, and it was heartbreaking for me because I how hard it was for the both of them. And I want people to know that not everybody is knowledged, and you cannot listen to the people that are hurt. You have to go to the people that know what they're talking about. And that's why I took the classes to become a recovery coach for, family members, because it's a very heavy feeling to walk around with and blame yourself for, other people's lives being the way that they are. And I just have been trying, even though, you know, like I said, she's coming up on 6 years and it's still a fear of mine. It's still something I struggle with every day. It's still something I struggle to talk about because nobody around me understands. And then people look at me crazy, and I would literally go to jail for killing somebody, for saying anything negative about my mom. I don't care what she's doing. If she's, I don't care what it is. I will kill somebody for her. Like, it's always been that way. So it's hard for me to hear people talk negatively about other people in addiction. And I catch myself confronting people on the streets. I catch myself confronting people in restaurants, confronting people in, you know, open settings that openly talk about these things without having the knowledge to back it up. And I look very young. So when I come for these people's throats with my knowledge, they kind of look at me like I'm crazy. And, you know, it's always a back and forth thing. You know, there's always going to be the people that believe that addiction is a disease, and there's going to be the people that believe it's a choice. But until you fully educate yourself on it, you're never going to know anything. But I just am eternally grateful for all of this. I'm sorry, I don't like to cry. I was trying not to cry, but I tried to hit all my points as best as I could. So I apologize if I didn't.
Oh my gosh, Brittany, listen, there is no reason for you to apologize. You spoke from your heart, and what a beautiful story of love and perseverance and you know, partnership with your mom through all of it. I mean, it's what you two have, the love is, so you can just feel it. My only regret is that we're not in person to be able to give you guys hugs, because let me tell you, this is such a powerful story. And I know you feel alone, but I know that there's a lot of young adults like yourself that are out there that are in the same situation. So you are definitely not alone. And obviously you have this huge extended fan family that's here with open arms, you know, to talk to you and be here for support as well. So please know that, you know, all of us are here for you. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the Northwest Wayne fan chapter. It was beautifully said. I don't think you could have said it any better. So I would have been shocked if you guys could have gotten through it without being emotional. So you both did a really phenomenal job. So now what we'd like to do is open it up for question and answer time. So I don't know if we have any questions in the chat right now, but I see a whole lot of, you guys are wonderful. What a powerful story. This is really great. So I hope you take an opportunity to read through some of those things. I guess I really feel, Brittany, that you are really positioned well to be a family recovery coach for young people. I think that you can really offer some really sound advice to people that are going through exactly what you went through. And you know what? It's okay if you don't have all the answers. None of us have all the answers to anything. The mere fact that you're there as a support arm for another young person is just a beautiful thing. And it's really, you know, we always hear the stories of the child that's in recovery and the parent. We don't often hear the reverse. So we thank you for that. So I'm going to open it up. Does anyone want to just unmute themselves and ask a question, or do you want to send a question to me or Lauren through the chat, and we'll be happy to read them off?
Hi, it's Nicole. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Yay! Obviously, we all want to thank you, Frankie and Brittany. Amazing. I have a daughter. She's 32. I'm 53. So when she went through the rounds of her dad, and when you were talking, it reminded me of my daughter Ashley going through her teenage years and stuff, and wanted to be the savior. But what I want to tell you is, it's awesome about your peer recovery, Frankie and Brittany, and the program you have about angels. Well, you two are truly the original angels, and it's amazing. Keep learning, keep advocating for your own people, okay, Brittany, for real, and keep loving yourself. I told your mom, thank you, Frankie, for loving yourself again, loving yourself. And Brittany, same thing for you. You got to remember to love yourself forever. Squeeze hard. I can look at you. Can you see me? I'm squeezing. Love yourself and self-care yourself. Because I can't tell you not to be super mom or super nanny or anything that's going to happen in your life, but you got to take care of yourself as well. I'm Nicole and I'm here. I'm also from Detroit Wayne Integrative Health Network. And yes, I'm going to give you a number, but don't forget, Brittany, you're going to be advocating and shouting out to everyone, yo, yes, this is happening. This is for real. It's fire. The number is 241 I'm sorry, 1-800-241-4949 for D-Win. But they do have those recovery coaches and peer support specialists. They have substance abuse, peer recovery. They have peer recovery for vets. So if we could take that number and start shuttling it out, the rewards are amazing because you can reward others. And I just want to thank you guys again. It was very cool. That's it.
That's fantastic. I do want to give a shout out to all the folks at Share House who are listening. Frankie was actually at Share House for recovery, and Dwight Butner, who is the CEO of both Macomb and Detroit, sent a message. I don't know how many people saw it, that there's like 30 plus people that are watching this evening. So hello to Share House. We're really happy to have you on board this evening, and thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you again as well. Anybody else have any questions or advice or words of wisdom that they'd like to share with Frankie or Brittany?
Yes, my name is Lance. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I just want to say that I am so very, very grateful that I logged in tonight. I had a problem logging in. I come in a little bit late, but my battery's dying or whatever. But anyway, I just want to say that I've had a very, very rough week this week. Just, with this virus going on, with my work, with my finances, and I struggle with depression and, alcohol and drug abuse and everything else. But I've really, really been having some low days. And, tonight I'm just so thankful that Brittany and Frankie both told their stories, about how it can be and how it is now, that things do change, things do turn around, and I'm just very thankful that I've been informed about this group. And I just want to just commend them and thank them and let them know that you're helping people when you don't even know. Like, honestly, God, I can't even explain it, but tonight I really, really needed to hear what those ladies had to say. It really touched me inside because I have been. And a couple of months ago, addiction is a terrible thing. It'll either kill you straight out, make you wish you were dead, or some people choose to end their life rather than being in that. It's so bad, because when you're in that, it's not who you are. You do things and say things that are completely against the core person that you are inside. And then that it creates a divide inside of you. I mean, it's like two different people. And after a while, that pain becomes so severe and so harsh that a decision has to be made. Thankfully, some make the right decision. I'm going to seek help. I'm going to do something I don't want to do like this anymore. And then others decide I just had enough and I want it to end, and they take their own lives. And I was one of those people that did that a couple months ago. I decided to do that. And thank God, by the grace of God, that I did survive, and I'm very grateful. And some of the things that's been helping me is this right here, like these meetings and hearing other people talk about where they've been, because I live alone, and it's easy for me to sit in here sometimes by myself and look at the negative things and look at what's not going right instead of all the good things it is. I have a lot of wonderful things in my life too, but I'm just so very thankful that there's things in place like this to where people they can realize that they're not alone and that there is hope. And I just wanted to say that I'm so very thankful that I was able to get in love in tonight. That's it.
Thank you, Lance, for those comments. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm just, I do.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, no, we can't hear you. You're muted. Ray, you're muted.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm an ambassador of mental health, and me sitting here tonight as an ambassador listening, we all have gone through different walks of life. And with my life, it's not with an addiction, but life with the mental disabilities where people were placed in institutions at the time, then into the community. So I know what she's talking about. When people are, sometimes people are due to make fun of. Some people are made. I say put the labels on the cans, but not on the people. And people did really good here today. I was really impressed, and it's very warming. So I just want to say, keep your head up. We're all in this together. We can all learn from each other. So I want to say thank you. And see, what an ambassador is, there's like a lot of good information in this book. So sometimes somebody might need help. Someone might need, into the situations before it gets into that big. We don't want that to happen. We want people to be safe. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate that. I think we all do on our board. I think it's very important that we have these stories of hope that show people that beautiful recovery is possible. It takes an awful lot of hard work, as I'm sure we heard from Frankie, and it's not easy to get out there and bare your soul and tell the world, the things that you did. I mean, if we all had to do that on a daily basis, would be a very challenge for many of us. I'm quite certain of that. But I don't see any other questions, but I do want to ask Frankie and Brittany if there's like one last closing remark that you would like to make to maybe somebody who, if they were in your shoes sitting here watching today, maybe it was 6 years ago. Frankie, if you can think of what something remarkable that somebody could have said that may have triggered, much like your daughter's letter touched your heart, to make a change in your life, or Brittany, for you to share something for maybe a young person that might be watching this right now that may need to hear just, any last closing remarks from you.
For me, I would kind of just say, if you love somebody, do not give up on them. I guess I don't necessarily want to say don't give up on them, because at some point, if it is, not benefiting you and it's toxic, you have every right to. But how about recovery is real? Recovery is real, and it happens. And if you have faith and you are motivated, it happens. It happens. So recovery is real, guys. It is real, ladies and gentlemen.
That's great. That's beautiful. Thank you, Brittany. Frankie, anything? You're muted.
I would just say, for the families of addicts, I would say that most importantly, it's not your fault, and that you're not responsible for your loved one's recovery. There's a lot of reasons why addiction affected my life. A lot of them stemmed from my childhood, and for a long time I used those as reasons and excuses for my behavior. But ultimately, I'm responsible for my own recovery, and I don't want to sit here and say that I don't know if there was really anything that anyone could have said to me until I was ready, right? But I would say that if you are the family member of an addict, educate yourself, get a family recovery coach, because a lot of times, and I'm going to hurt some people's feelings by saying this, but I'm a truth teller, you're doing more harm than good. A lot of times you think that you're doing what's right for your family member, and in reality, you're helping them kill themselves. So I would definitely say educate yourself and get a family recovery coach, and let someone who's been through what you're going through guide you through the process and help you learn how to set healthy boundaries with that loved one so that they become responsible for their disease, not you.
Well said, Frankie. Appreciate that. Anybody else have anything to say, or questions or statements that they want to say before we go into our closing remarks for the evening?
Are you making those potatoes? Oh.
Well, I just I'm currently in the certified recovery coach training this week, and I had invited some of my new classmates to come. I don't see anyone on here though, but they said they was gonna check you guys out, that they heard about you guys from some of their coworkers. So
Well,
that-
thank you, Kelly. The good news is that this is being taped. It's live on Facebook. Well, it's sort of kind of live on Facebook. It's streaming to our YouTube channel on Northwest Wayne Fan. So if any of your friends or colleagues that are in the CCAR class with you, if they want to listen to it, they can go out to our YouTube channel and be able to view it, and they'll be able to view it off of our fan page as well. So that's the good thing about that. So
Kelly, are you in the MDHHS training or the CCAR?
the MDHHS.
That's a great program.
Yeah, Deb Monroe is one of the trainers. Amy, Priscilla, and Sarah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even I'm not gonna lie. I don't even remember who was my trainers, what their names were, except for Steve Henry, who's no longer with them. But that is a fabulous program. That's a great place to start. I just want to say that. CCAR is great too, but that's
yeah, they offering it on Zoom. So I said, let me try to get in, because it's usually like a $450 course. So
CCAR is not cheap either, but
right now.
Fan offers that, by the way.
I was just going to say that. That's right. So we're happy you're a part of that too, Kelly. Thank you for that. So, okay, Lauren, I'll turn it over to you for closing remarks.
Okay, and Dara, thank you so much for leading the introductions of our speakers and the Q&A portion of the program. I just want to sort of add to heap on Frankie and Brittany what everybody else is saying. That was an amazing story. I mean, I am so glad that we invited you and that you accepted to come speak today, because as Dara mentioned, it's we've heard stories and had people share stories where it's the child that is struggling with addiction and the parent is trying to deal with it, and to sort of hear the reverse story and how it impacted both of you, both the addiction experience, the recovery experience, and how the two of you dealt with it together. It was incredibly powerful. And I really think that both of you, through the telling your story and the words that you shared, have made an impact on people's lives today, and will, as this program is recorded and is watched by additional people. So I really thank you, and I thank you also both for what you're doing currently to help people, both family members and other people in recovery. I also want to thank the people who made additional comments after our speakers were done, because I really think that those comments were very powerful and helpful as well. Okay, I'm going to, just for a quick minute, share again one page of the PowerPoint slide. And again, the whole point of my doing this is so that if there's information on there, you can see it in black and white and you can write it down in case it's helpful to you. So let me just do that real quick. So on the first bullet point, this is our email address. So if any of you want to reach out to us because you need help, if you have questions, if you want to know what additional events we maybe have going on, or when our next forum is, what the topic is, that's our email address. So feel free to reach out to us and we can share that information with you. Also, again, keep an eye on our Facebook page. It'll tell, we're going to be posting soon what our next public forum is going to be about, as well as any other information or events that we have. So keep an eye on that. And then here again is the address for our YouTube channel. So this is being recorded to it right now. And we have all of the other public forums and speakers on there as well. So I think that's basically it for today. Thank you all for attending. And I wish you all a happy holiday season. And I look forward to seeing you all in January.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great holiday.
Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful night.
Yeah,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you too.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Lauren, stay on for a second
Yep.
when we're done, okay?
Mhm.
Oh, Alfred, don't hang up on us yet.
Well, we're still recording right now, Dara.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's disconnect and then I'll call you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Have a
Okay.
great holiday, everybody. Actually, I'll see you guys at our next meeting. So our annual meeting.
Sounds good. Okay,
Bye.
bye.